Hello, this is a poetry workshop training, and my target audience is future interpreters. Okay, do you guys read poems? This is an old sign for poems. It's a P initialized English sign, but I like to use this sign for a poem. Either way. Do you guys read poems often? If yes, raise your hand. If you don't read poems often, raise your hand. Okay, yes, go ahead. Mm. Ah. Huh. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that's poetry. What is a poem? Can anyone tell me what a poem is? Go ahead. Hmm. True, true. Okay, what about you? Words can have a secret meaning behind them. Yep. A lot of emotions and feelings are involved with poems and poetry. Feelings may be evoked and tugged out of you by reading poems. Yep, correct. A lot of imagination can occur in poems. Great. Poems don't follow regular sentence structure. It breaks away from those typical and normal rules. Poems have their own rules. Yes, go ahead. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do poems have a typical pattern that they must follow? Are there different types of patterns for poems? Right, rhythm and rhyme, correct. Those are type of patterns and characteristics of poems. Okay, next. Do you guys have any favorite poems? And if you do, why? Why is it your favorite? Anyone? Anyone? Okay, yeah. What is your favorite poem? Highwayman. Why do you like Highwayman? It's old, ancient English. Okay, great. It's from a long time ago, though. A lot of history. Yeah, it's kind of old fashioned, though, right? Anyone else have a favorite poem? Do you guys even read poems? Yeah, what's your favorite poem? Mm-hmm. Edgar Allan Poe? Yeah, great. Now I will show you my favorite poem. Oh, wait, do you have another favorite poem of yours? Yeah, traveling makes all the difference. If you are traveling and have different experiences, you learn more about poetry. Traveler, uh-huh. What's that word? Desert? Never heard of that, but great. Anyone else have any poems that they like? Robert Frost, yep, that's true. Why do you like Robert Frost? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, I agree. Robert Frost he's a really popular poet. When you guys finish reading a poem, what do you do after? Do you reflect? Do you just read it and you're finished? What are the actions or process that you use after you read a poem? I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on that. Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, you find the relationships that are occurring in the poems, okay? Or maybe relationships or connections that you have from your experiences to the poem. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes that you find really strong connections with poems, and other times you may feel that you can relate to the emotions, that something similar that's going on in your life, some internal struggles that you may have, and find those connections with poems. Yeah. When you read a poem, do you follow the same structure and rules as the same literature devices and structures as other literature, such as newspapers or books? Is it the same or is it different? Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Good. All right, this next poem, it's my favorite and I think it's cute. It's called Time's Pace. When I was a child, I laughed and I wept. Time crept. When I was a youth, I walked more bold. Time strolled. When I became full grown man, time ran. When I was older and I daily grew, time flew. Soon I shall find, and passing on, time gone. O Christ, I wilt thou have saved me then. Amen. That's it. That's my favorite poem. It's really cool to think about how signing this poem is a lot different than the English words that are written. And as you can see, the time's pace has a connection to each line, as each line talks about different paces and how that's connected. All right, now we're going to move on and discuss literary devices. Can anyone tell me what these are? Literary devices have specific patterns. They also have framework that they follow for each one. Poems often have different types of literary devices and a formula that they must follow, depending on what formula you use. If we want to help ourselves and find formulas or types of poems that are fascinating, we can look for the different characteristics of each device and choose how we want to express our poem. The sounds of words is one literary device. Repetition can be connected. Rhyme is also a type of sound of words. And alliteration, which is A, B, A, different patterns. Or there's different words that sound the same, things like that. Next is a little bit more deeper meaning and finding out the meaning of words. Illusion is what you set up before the work. So we take the illusion in the picture of what we want to write, and then we make it into literature. Connotation is the next one, and it has different meanings for each word. For example, home, the word home, as compared to the word house. They're similar words but have different meaning. Home is something that's safe and comfortable. You eat food, you wash your dishes, and are you with your family? And house, on the other hand, is different. It's more of a structure and a place, a building almost. And it depends also on your experiences. If you feel like you're at home, you're comfortable. And each word, home and house, has their own individual meaning. Again, house is maybe just a structure, and home is somewhere where you bake cookies and you're with your mom and it's just more cozy and you feel at home. It's more of a feeling. So basically, connotations is comparing two different items. A metaphor can be used by using vexing. So you can see the raging waves of an ocean, and you can compare that to the emotions that you feel inside and the emotions that you're struggling with. And it's very complex. Oxymoron is very similar and is also complex. For example, the word play has a different meaning, and it also includes puns, oxymorons. Next, arranging the words is another literary device. Poems can become from my perspective or another person's perspective, and they also have different points of views and use lines to show different types of things or places or people, and the structure and the imagery of the lines. For example, there's a poem called Volcano, and the lines are set up where it's in the shape of a volcano and represents a volcano. It's pretty cool. Some traditions are the same traditional type of poem, which is a stanza. Usually has 6 lines, and it could be A, B, C, different patterns every other word, or every other sentence, excuse me. And then the last sentence could be completely off topic. But it's really complex, you gotta think about it. Couplet is where you have 2 successive lines, and the last word of each line sounds the same. And a ballad is more musically related, and it has similar formulas as a couplet, and you can have music involved. For example, I'm on a boat, I'm on a ship, and I wish I was dead, and I don't care. Okay, so next, the images of words. We talk about imagery and tone and mood, and we can analyze and increase our fascination and our emotion and write that down. And we see those images and we turn them into literature. It can be a challenge sometimes. It's very complex with the rules and the structure, but it kind of limits your options of the words and the thinking, but you have to find the balance. Robert Frost does a lot of imagery in his poems. So now we're going to discuss one of my favorite poets, Emily Bronte. Do you guys know who she is? Yep, she's an English author and poet. She has two sisters. It's Charlotte is the oldest, then Emily, and then Anne. Yeah, similar to Jane Austen or Jane Eyre. Yep. I really enjoy the works of Emily Bronte. Now I want to discuss the term spellbound. It's also the name of one of her poems. Very fascinating. Does anybody know what the meaning? Just what is the general meaning of the term spellbound? Bound. Fascinating. Fall in love. That's some of the examples of spellbound. I will show you the poem Spellbound now. Go ahead and read that on your own. Who wants to discuss the first stanza? Anyone? No volunteers? Okay. The night is darkening around me. The wild winds coldly blow, and a tyrant spell has sound me. But I cannot go, I must stay. The giant trees are bending. Their bare boughs are weighted with snow. And the storm is fast descending, and yet I cannot go. Clouds beyond clouds above me, waste beyond waste below. But nothing drear can move me. I cannot go. That's it. Okay. Now we're going to work in partners to analyze this poem. We're going to talk about this poem, Spellbound, and the different characteristics that this poem uses in the formats and patterns. Going back from my last slide about literary devices, that's what I want you to find. But hold on one second. I want to explain something first. One second. These are the things I want you guys to record when you're discussing with your partner. Okay. We're going to partner up, and it looks like you can be partners with the person sitting next to you. I want you to discuss with your partner for 3 minutes. I want you to discuss and talk about the different literary devices that you guys see in Spellbound and analyze it. And record these all on your paper. Okay, let's go. Okay. What type of literary devices did you guys notice? Yes, go ahead. Start us off. Rhyme and rhythm, correct. Repetition, great. What about you? Imagery, tell me more about imagery. Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you feel that's traditional pattern and setup of a traditional poem, or do you think this is a normal and typical form of a poem, or is it different? And if it's different, what type? Correct, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's specific words that have different meaning, and we can choose those and find those throughout. Yep. Is that it? Oh, go ahead. Mm-hmm. Yep. True. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You feel stuck, right? I know. Mm. You just have to face your challenges. You have to face up to it. You may feel depressed or stuck and that you can't go on, and you just have to accept that and move on with your life. One second. Okay. Did you like the poem Spellbound? What does it mean, spellbound? Now, knowing what we talked about before, and now, what do you think it means? This poem specifically. At first, we think just from the word spellbound that it means something positive and fascinating and great, but this poem changes the meaning. A tyrant spell. It's not so positive, is it? cannot cannot, will not. Those are 3 different ways to express the same thing. And it ends amen, and it stops right there. Yeah, go ahead. You tell me. There's 2 choices. Right. It means the meeting's finished and you make that decision and it's done. Mhm. Mhm. Hmm. Okay. That does have a lot of relation to power. That's typical and that's a normal component of poems, and especially in this one. But this poem is beautiful and it has a lot of emotion intervened with it and has a lot of meaning, and maybe it has a lot of answers for people. You can write down those different explanations and how your perspective and what it means to you and the experiences that you've had that you can relate to it. But the main point is I want you guys to look and analyze with the literary devices. How does the author create a negative impression of nature in Spellbound? How does the poet do that? We need evidence that shows those negative connotations within the poem. This is important because the state test does ask questions about poems, and we need to know that and copy these notes down and remember the different characteristics of poems. So this lesson today, what have you liked about it and why? Has it been boring and not interesting? Or has it helped you? Has this lesson helped you today learn some more deeper analysis of poems? Has it helped you? How? Anyone? Has it helped you or do you feel the same? Like, oh, I don't like poems, I hate them, it's boring. Or have you learned more about it and learned the different frameworks of poems and how emotion is involved with poems? Go ahead. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Right. I'm sure a lot of teachers that do love poems understand a lot more than just the sounds. There's a lot more intertwined with poems, a lot of more components. And it takes a lot of emotions and analyzing that to realize the different meanings of the poems. And sometimes you're like, maybe that's not so bad. It's pretty cool. I can see a different perspective and I can make the connections with my own life experiences. That's pretty cool. Do you think going forward, you'll read more poems now? I hope so. Maybe in the future when you go to an art museum, you can see a poem and you can understand more about it. And you can see the color and the balance of different poems and understand all of those characteristics of poems, and you're like, you know what, I see that in the poem, and I understand that now. So you can use this information when you go into museums in the future. Again, know that maybe the frames are repeated in the different patterns, but what's inside those frames is different, and each one has different meaning that has to be revealed and understood. Okay, before we break, I want to discuss one more thing. I want to know what main challenges interpreters face when they're trying to interpret poetry. What do you think? Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes. Mm-hmm. Right. Interpreters, it's interpreting poems is hard. It's a challenge. There's lots of different structures, and you got to know and work through those challenges. Especially when an interpreter hears a poem for the first time. It's a process to analyze the meaning of that poem because it changes the entire setup of each word, and you gotta drop the English, and you're like interpreting a poem, and you're like, shit, I'm falling behind. I gotta focus on meaning, and I'm just following the English order. So it can be a challenge, but just with practice and understanding the poems and the different types of poems helps that. Again, just not focusing on the English and dropping that, and just focusing on, oh, those characteristics of poems, I can see and identify those now. And it becomes less blurry and confusing. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Some people complain about the visual distraction that it may be when interpreting poems. But it's the same essence that you want when you are visually explaining something and the meaning of it. Mm-hmm. Right? Yep. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. I like that. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. It can be a challenge. It's important to find interpreters that can see those different characteristics and express that visually in ASL. Mm-hmm. 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 Going back before the pattern that an interpreter must see and realize and identify. It's it's what you need to learn and understand the formula. It's a challenge in your hands to do that and show that. All right, we're going to take a break now, about 5 minutes. Is that enough time for a break? Is that enough time? Okay. And then when we get back, 1 more hour, and then we're finished. Thank you.